Hey everyone, it's Kenji. I'm here at home and I'm about to make some chicken, lettuce, and rice soup. It's gonna take like 5-10 minutes maybe. So this is a soup I actually made yesterday for my wife out of leftover stuff I found in my fridge. So I thought I'd make it again today because I still have more leftovers. I know there's going to be people who are like, "Oh, this recipe is useless because you have to start with rotisserie chicken. You have to start with cooked rice. All these things." So yes, this is not a recipe I would make from scratch. But given that I think a lot of people at home have these leftovers, these exact same leftovers from time to time, and can go out and get a little bit of extra stuff, I think it's a useful technique or recipe to have. All right, so what I've got is I've got half a head of romaine lettuce. I've got some already cooked rice from a couple days ago. You wouldn't want to eat this plain. And then I've got some rotisserie chicken that I just pulled the meat off of. Aside from that rotisserie chicken, I also took that same chicken, the carcass from that same chicken, and I made this broth a few days ago. So the chicken's a few days old. So I made this broth when we got it, and I picked off all the meat. And so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna combine chicken broth. You don't have to use homemade. You can use better than bouillon or even powder or whatever for this. Super, super simple. Broth in there, and I'm gonna grab some of this rice and dump it right in. This would work with like leftover rice from from the takeout place, or leftover, as long as it's not like flavored rice, but even then it would still probably taste good. Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't use basically any leftover rice. Maybe not leftover fried rice. No, even that would probably be good. All right, so I get, I don't know, 4 cups of chicken broth in there or so, and about a cup of rice, cooked rice. I'm gonna throw this on a burner. Start this camera up. There we go. For anyone who, this might be your first time seeing my new kitchen, I've showed it a couple times, but not everyone saw those, so welcome to the new kitchen. Sorry, it's still, we're still in the process of setting it up, so not everything is stored where it should be. Incidentally, chicken stock is really easy to make, and people sometimes ask me for, like, what's my recipe for chicken stock? The truth is that there isn't really a recipe per se. It's more of a technique than a recipe. I take chicken bones, whether roasted or raw, it doesn't matter. I mean, the results will be a little bit different, but you can use the bones from a roasted chicken, or you can use the bones from a raw chicken, and it'll still make good stock. I take chicken bones, I put them in a pot, cover them with water, just enough water to cover them, maybe by an inch or so. And then I'll add whatever aromatics I want. So for classical sort of, French style stock, you would add onions, carrots, celery, and then some aromatics like bay leaf, black peppercorns, things like that, fresh parsley stems, thyme stems. But you don't have to go out of your way to buy those things. It's like, if you have fresh parsley in your fridge, then use it. If you have thyme, use it. If you don't, then you're still going to make a decent stock. Even just boiling some chicken bones in water is going to give you something that's going to work for, as like a soup base or as whatever. The other thing is that I frequently will use store-bought stock. There's cases where it doesn't really matter that much, unless you're going to be exacting enough to go, for like a fancy restaurant or something. But there are definitely many cases where it doesn't matter whether you're using homemade or store-bought. Homemade stocks, I think, shine in soups, things like that, things where it's really the stock is the star of the show. But again, it's like, I don't really ever, that whole thing where people say, take your chicken bones and freeze them. And I've probably even said that in the past. I don't do that. Like, I make stock when I feel like it, or I make stock when I have an extra chicken carcass lying around my fridge. I don't bother making it in large batches and freezing it like some people also recommend, because I don't like defrosting frozen things that much, especially frozen liquids that take a long time. And I never really have sort of the foresight to do that, or the freezer space. So I make stock in small batches whenever it makes sense to make stock. I just put in 3 slices of ginger. So in here so far, chicken stock, rice, a few slices of ginger, and some diced up chicken, already cooked, rotisserie chicken. And now I'm just chopping up some romaine lettuce. So I make stock whenever it makes sense for me to make stock. So that is like when I have a chicken carcass lying around. And even making like 1 chicken carcass worth of stock is really easy, as long as you're sort of in the house, which we all are nowadays. You put the stuff in there, cover them with water, bring it to a simmer, and then you just let it sit there, for an hour. You don't have to babysit it. You don't have to carefully skim it like you would in a restaurant. It's still going to taste just fine. And then you have stock. And so what I do is rather than find a recipe first and then think about, okay, do I need homemade stock for this? And then go out of my way to make homemade stock. Instead, what I'll do is every time I have homemade stock, like here, I will just purposely cook dishes that benefit from having a good homemade stock. Like a simple soup like this. Yeah, lettuce in the soup. I know maybe some of you have not tried or even heard of wilted, hot, soupy lettuce. But it is super common in China, and there's even like French lettuce soups and stuff. The lettuce soup is more common around the world than my American experience would have led me to believe. But it's really delicious lettuce when it's wilted and brothy. You could also use something like cabbage if you want. All right, so I've got lettuce, scallions. I'm going to chop some cilantro. And then aside from a little seasoning, that's basically it. The scallions and cilantro are garnish. I'm going to keep the cilantro on the side because I'm the only one in my family who likes cilantro. Okay, so to season this soup, we've got our ginger slice in there. I'm going to add a little dash of white pepper, ground white pepper. You could use black pepper if you want, or no pepper, doesn't really matter. Grab a spoon. I'm going to season with a little salt as well. That chicken broth, the homemade stuff is completely unseasoned, so you're starting from scratch, so you do need a reasonable amount of salt in there. Good. And then I'm going to finally add a little dash of fish sauce. So again, totally optional. You could do just salt and black pepper. You could do just salt and white pepper. You could do no pepper at all and just salt. Salt is the only thing that's not optional because things without salt don't taste good. Oh, but that tastes good. All right. Finally, I'm going to add my lettuce. Not quite at a boil yet, but push it down in there. Like I said, you could use, I think I said it, you could use other types of greens, so like, kale or cabbage green, cabbage, Napa cabbage, white cabbage, other types of lettuce. Iceberg is really good in soups. All right, so now by the time what I'm gonna do is I'm going to snap my fingers and we are at a boil. All right, so we're boiling now, and as soon as the lettuce is wilted, basically done. If you want to be super nice to your family or your guests, though I hope you're not having guests right now, you can fish out the ginger slices, but honestly, just leave them in, whatever. All right, let me get a bowl. Let me get a bowl for me so I can show you before I call my family to lunch. Okay. Look at that. And of course, none of these ratios are fixed. You can use a ton more rice if you want it really much more sort of stew-like, or almost like congee. If you put enough rice in here and cook it for long enough, that's basically what congee is. So like rice porridge. But I kind of like it in this brothy consistency. By the way, lettuce is also great in congee, any kind of porridge. All right. Then lots of scallions, and for me, lots of cilantro. Doesn't this look good? Oh, that's last night's enchiladas. Ooh, yeah, it's good. All right. Hey, Shabu. Come on. Come here. Dogs can't eat the soup, but they can eat some chicken. Here you go, bud. Good catch. Sit, Shabu. Good girl. Good girl. All right, guys, gals, non-binary pals, I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, it's Kenji. There are 22 million kids in this country that rely on school lunches for nutritious meals. And with schools closed now more than ever, organizations like No Kid Hungry can use their support. So I'm asking you to join me. Click the link in the description below to donate some money. No amount is too small or too big. Thank you very much and stay safe. Bye-bye.